15, cuts left at the 20, lots of room at the 30, headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
And with that, we start another episode of Believe in Kentucky, alongside former UK quarterback and provider of the highlight, Jalen Whitlow. We got the man who covers all the beats for the catspaws.com, football, basketball, the overlap, the press conferences, the games, the travel, all of it. Atlanta, Louisville, Chicago, Toronto, Aaron Gershon. Fellas, how's everybody doing this evening?
Good, man.
Yeah, man. Good. Tired. Glad this day is. It was a good day, but glad it's over. A long day. Covering. I was talking to Daryl Bird on the phone earlier today and said, tomorrow just covering a basketball game is the easy part of the job nowadays. With all this recruitment, all this money that's being thrown around. So happy for all the kids that sign, not just with Kentucky, but across the country. Every sport, know how big of a day that is, having covered some high school sports myself. I know Jalen working over doing some high school football. I bet you had some kids sign today, and it's a great day for those kids. But it's a hell of a day for the coaches and a hell of a day for writers trying to track down all this stuff.
Yeah. Stoops kind of talked about it, all the work that went into the days for days, months, years in some cases, and that's no lie, man.
Normally I'd say he's probably smoking a cigar and having some bourbon, but he might just be sleeping tonight. Like that man, the last two times we've talked to him, he's looked pretty damn tired. Liam Cohen on Monday, that's as tired as I've seen him. These coaches have been working 24/7, man, close to it. Not much sleep, not much time to rest between. I forget if it was Mayer or Stoops who said it really well that today was draft day with getting all your high school kids signed. It was the free agency day, the free agency frenzy day to signing those kids. And then on top of that, you're preparing for your yearly Super Bowl. It's just, it's insane how much they've got to do in the month of December. But at least for now, the portal will be open for a little longer. Visits will be allowed there in early January. But for the most part, things are going to calm down on the trail, at least as far as 2024 goes, the rest of the offseason. So at least they got through this insane period of time here in December. And now they'll get ready for Clemson full throttle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, man. I just don't know. I know how hectic it is on signing day. But I think the biggest thing, I just got done watching Nick Saban's press conference from the day, and I think the biggest thing, man, you're actually trying to prepare to win a game. When you combine all of that stuff along with you're still recruiting the next class today. Like you're still meeting about recruits. You're still watching film from, at least you're trying to. You're still trying to recruit class 25, 26. So I really don't know how they do it. I don't know how they balance this life, family life, what they like to do in their personal time. Like, do they even get chance? I mean, I don't know. It's just they got to update that calendar, man. You got to allow coaches to have some sort of normalcy and get some type of sleep and balance this thing out. Because there's not a lot of balance right now in college football at all. So, again, shout out to them, salute to them, because I know it's tough. And the fact that they were able to reel in the class that they reeled in, and not really the high school kids, but, man, some of those transfers that they brought in, it says a lot about where the program is right now. It says a lot about how far, let's call a spade, the collective has grown. It says a lot. So, shout out to them.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll definitely get back to it, too. And before we switch, we should do the basketball first since we got games. But, Jalen, like you said it many times, too. During the season, the offseason, the regular season, you said it countless times. These guys, they get paid a lot. They're compensated well. But that grind, it just drains you, and there's no time for nothing. Like you said, I want to go fishing sometimes. I don't even know if they have time to do that. So it's
yeah, man. Yeah, man. You want to go fishing? You want to go, go to the range? I mean, do something. Like, do they ever? Like I said, I really respect the fact that they able to do what they do, because I know how hard it is. I know how difficult it is. Obviously, I've never done it, but I've been a part of a college staff that had to deal with signing day, and I know how hectic that could be. So, man, like I said, that's big time.
Yeah. Speaking of big time, the young freshman in Atlanta against the grown, old, experienced North Carolina Tar Heels, the freshmen were big time because Kentucky's old guys didn't really shine. The freshmen really did the heavy lifting.
Yeah, they did. I mean, yet another day kind of in a big game where Antonio Reeves struggled a little bit. Though, give him some credit. He did score 9 in the second half, and I think he had 5 or 6 rebounds. But, Trey Mitchell statistically didn't have a great game. The freshman did, like you said, Vinny. I mean, starting off with Rob Dillingham, he kind of got off to a slow start. I think it was like a 2 for 10 start, and then it felt like he was making everything. And he was getting by guys and doing Rob Dillingham things. He was awesome. Reed Shepherd, just steady as it gets. Yet again, Aaron Bradshaw, I think if he doesn't get into foul trouble, that stat line's looking more like 12 and 15, or excuse me, 20 and 15. I think he ended with like 12 and 7. He did a really good job on Armando Bacot. Just an all-around team effort yet again. And I know that it was a close game. It was a nail-biter, and the crowd was electric. It was as close to 50-50 as you can get, as good of a neutral site atmosphere as I've ever been in. I thought it was, I don't know how it sounded to you guys on TV, but wow, it was awesome. But man, like you said, going up against a veteran team, Armando Bacot's been in college for 30 years. RJ Davis has been in there for almost as long, and RJ Davis is a hell of a player. Cormac Ryan at Notre Dame had been around a while. And this team, with all these freshmen and a couple sophomores and 2 seniors, found a way to get it done. And they only trailed for 16 seconds. Really, really impressive showing. Big for this team. Mitch Barnhart, I don't know if you saw the clip, and it was one of my buddies who shot it down there of him saying it's been a long time, because it has been. This is probably the biggest non-conference win for Kentucky since when they went to Kansas and beat up on the Jayhawks a couple of years ago. And they needed this one. They needed a big-time win. They needed a quad 1 win, and they did it in a pretty damn impressive fashion against again, North Carolina had a tough year last year, but they're veteran-led. They've got a lot of talent. They are at UNC at the end of the day. They're going to be in the tournament. They're going to have a chance to go far in the thing. And Kentucky outplayed, even though, again, it got close and you blew, I think, a 14 or 16-point lead at one point. This team found a way to get it done.
Yeah, it was the first game that I sat down and watched from start to finish. And like I said, I just enjoy watching the team. Like I said, I think they have a lot of balance in how they can play basketball.
No doubt.
They have the ability to slow it down and play a half-court game. Mm-hmm. They have the ability to play a fast break style of play, just a fire hydrant, Tennessee football style of play when it comes to basketball. They have the ability to play inside of the paint a little bit now. They have the ability to shoot the ball. They have the ability to play defense. They have the ability to be aggressive in passing lanes due to their athleticism and length. I just think it's an all-around good team. It's an exciting team to watch. Bradshaw, man, if he, the more games he get under his belt, man, he's going to be an issue.
I agree.
For teams moving forward. And like I said, I think a very, very steady player. You know what you're going to get night in, night out. Reed Shepherd played well. He tends to make the shots that they need when he's open. He tends to make them. He makes all the right passes at the right times. He got a couple steals. Played a decent defense, so that was big. Rob Dillingham obviously he's box office in the way that he plays basketball. So they are really balanced. They beat a really veteran team, and like you said, they controlled the game.
Yep.
There was only one time in the game where I was like, and that was right before half, where it kind of,
after the technical.
Yeah, they went like on what was it, a 9-point run?
It was 11-3 to finish after the tech. It was 11-3. I'm not sure what the O was, but yeah.
That was the only time where I was like, it didn't feel like they controlled the game. Any other time, it felt like Kentucky controlled the basketball game.
Yep.
And that's saying a lot when you're playing, 24-year-old, young man out there, and you got a team full of, wet behind the ear 18-year-old freshmen. So that's big, man. Like I said, this team, there's no limit. I feel like how far this team can go, how much they can increase their style of play, increase their production. It's just going to be about playing good at the right time this year. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, and just going off that, well, I think there were a lot of impressive moments, plays, whatever. But I thought the most impressive run by this team was another point in the game, Jalen, similar to the one at the end of the first half when North Carolina, I forgot the exact run, but they went up by 1 for the first time all game, take the lead. Mm-hmm. And the North Carolina fans started to take that building over a little bit. In Kentucky, just like that, 6-0 run. And I forgot who scored the first 2 points, but Dillingham had 4 of them on contested layups. When they did that with Dillingham, a freshman, leading the way, I knew they were going to win the game. And that's when I was like, wow, like that's really impressive stuff. That you just saw your double-digit lead evaporate. Very similar to the way the Kansas game went, right? Kansas had Kentucky had a 14-point lead, I think, going into the first media timeout in the second half. It slowly evaporated, and at that point of the game, Kansas took it over. Well, I guess it was a little later, but still, point stands where they let a big lead evaporate. But this team, counterpunch right back. And, obviously North Carolina pulled within 1 a couple more times. They pulled within 1 bucket. They had a chance even in the final 11 seconds. If they don't throw a pass off a guy's back, maybe RJ Davis hits a 3 and we're going to overtime and the result's different. But when they went on that 6-0 run to counterpunch the run Carolina went on to take the lead, that really stood out to me. That was the nuts dropped a little bit on that one, if you will. Like that was big boy basketball from 18 to 19-year-olds.
And we're live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, courtesy of the Believe Podcast Network. We got the Believe in Kentucky YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. Feel free to drop a comment, and we'd love to have you interact with the show. A lot of you commented last week, so feel free to do that again. To me, it's kind of, Baltimore Ravens-esque. Baltimore has had the lead or been tied 90% of the season. Basically, they haven't trailed all year. And Kentucky virtually went wire to wire. Like you said, they took that 72-71 lead.
Yep.
And Aaron, you mentioned it. You were right there in the house. You talked about how the Carolina fans were about to trying to take the building over. Watching it on TV, and Kentucky's up 13-8. They're up 9-10. They build this lead and kind of control the game. And Carolina's trying to climb back in it, get over the hump, climb back in it, get over the hump. And there was, of course, there's a lot of Carolina fans in there, but there was, from the way the camera was set up on TV, there was a section of them right there courtside, and every time they would make a run, you see the blue shirts the powder blue shirts start to stand up and try to get into the game, and Kentucky would hit with a run, and then they would sit down again. They stand up thinking, "Oh, here we make our push," and Kentucky would, like Clark Kellogg said, that spurt ability. Kentucky hit them with a little spurt, and then they have to sit back down again. It just Kentucky kept bursting those people's bubbles all night.
Yeah, they sure did. And again, that building was incredible, man. I mean, it's a perfect. If you're going to play Carolina, Kentucky, and you're not going to do it on campuses, Atlanta's a pretty damn good spot because it's drivable for both. It's kind of I don't know the distance from Chapel Hill off the top of my head, but they
said it on TV. It was 379 miles from Chapel Hill, 380 miles from Lexington or something.
So there
you
go.
I didn't know that.
That's crazy. Yeah, it felt that way though. It really did. And it was really cool. I mean, even, driving to and from Atlanta, every time you stop at a rest stop, or we stopped at Buc-ee's a couple times.
Buc-ee's, shout out to Buc-ee's.
Shout out Buc-ee's, free ad. But a lot of Kentucky fans in the house. So it was just an awesome atmosphere. And you're right. I mean, the fans even traded counter punches. There was actually an incident in the stands that Maggie Davis reported. I didn't see it, but man, it was intense. It felt like Felt like the NCAA tournament. I mean, it really did. I mean, Trey Mitchell even said so. So I'm all for that game every year, man. I know Hubert Davis mentioned it before the game that they needed to put a Kentucky-North Carolina series together. And I know Kentucky's kind of loaded that baby up with some pretty good scheduling next year. I know, obviously the Indiana series is going to start next year. Gonzaga's not going anywhere. They go to Seattle to play them next year. I feel like there's another one off the top of my head, but if you can find a way to get North Carolina as a permanent, and not permanent, but in a series for the next 5 to 6 years, I think that'd be pretty electric. Because with the CBS Sports Classic, I'm a little curious to see what they do with this thing, because you have Ohio State and UCLA who are going to be in the same conference. So something's got to give there. And do they just reshuffle all the teams if North Carolina and Kentucky were to have a series? I don't know. But you got to find a way to play this game, whether it's, alternating CBS Classic, ACC, SEC Challenge. I mean, when's the last time North Carolina, Kentucky didn't live up to the hype? Maybe, I guess, if you wanted to say from a blowout standpoint, the game Severe Wheeler kind of kicked their butts a couple of years ago. But other than that, man, this game always delivers one way or the other with the winner. But, I mean, it just delivers. It's automatic. You get Carolina, Kentucky, it's going to be a must-watch basketball game.
Yeah, and both sides, they've had good wins. Kentucky's had good wins. Everybody remembers Malik Monk going for 47. Tayshaun Prince and Rupp Arena hitting 5 threes. Pulling up. It's just, it's kind of like that Iron Bowl, Jalen. It's always, Auburn can be 6-5 like they were or whatever, and the game losing to New Mexico State, but the game is off the chain. It's never
games like that, man. You got to find a way to put them on the schedule. You got to find a way to play them. It's funny because the Iron Bowl. I was telling people, because obviously New Mexico State kind of blew Auburn out at Auburn. I was like, it don't matter when it comes to the Iron Bowl. That's kind of how North Carolina, Kentucky basketball. It just don't matter. Like, you're gonna get a good game no matter what.
Yeah, Mike saying Duke or Michigan State in the Coaches Classic.
I think you meant CBS, but probably not. I would say just because they're already in the CBS, in the champions already. I've thought the teams that I've been talking about with some buddies is Villanova, maybe UConn. Something like that to spice it up. No offense to Ohio State. They just are. And I know they won their game. UCLA is terrible this year. I don't know if you saw what happened to them last night. I couldn't even tell you who they lost to. I'd never heard of them.
Who?
But UCLA, they lost to who the hell did they lose to? I'll find it, but it was bad.
I would think
they California State Northridge.
Oh wow. Cal State Northridge. Wow. I would maybe be in favor of because Kentucky owes them some payback because they've had the upper hand the last few times we played them. I mean, that's your home state and everything, but Connecticut's gotten the better of Kentucky the last few matchups. So and they are where they are right now, defending champs. Hurley's got them really, flashing back to the Calhoun days. So
they lost a tough one tonight, but that team ain't going anywhere. They lost to Seton Hall at Seton Hall.
Seton Hall beat them up pretty good, right?
Yeah, Shaheen Holloway, man. He's a giant killer. But UConn ain't going anywhere. Like you said, Dan Hurley's got that thing rolling up there. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be good for a while. That'd be great to add them to that classic. I really think. Again, no offense to Ohio State, but they if this were I think the 1960s when they were a powerhouse, that's one thing. But right now they're just not. And UCLA, you can also argue hasn't been great. I know the last couple of years under Cronin have been really good. They had the Final Four year. They had the deep run the year before that, but or the year after that. But this year's been bad. But still, they're UCLA at the end of the day. You got to find someone to take that Ohio State spot now that two Big Ten, they're both going to be in the Big Ten. I assume one of them is going to leave that thing. I mean, unless you just I don't know how you could even do it to rotate opponents and make sure those two teams play each other.
Yeah,
or don't play each other. Yeah.
Keeps going. It's going to be unavoidable. With the whole
that's
super conferences or whatever.
I mean, Yeah, did you guys see the only thing I could think of, like, I think Utah is playing Baylor. They're finishing like a series, and that's going to be a non-conference game, even though both are in the Big 12 next year, but it won't count toward the Big 12. Like, what is that? What are we doing? That's why they didn't, like, Georgia and Oklahoma were supposed to play this year, and they had a series starting, and that's why the SEC told them, don't do it. Like, we got to cancel the series because they don't want that they don't want that situation next year where those two teams play with the SEC logos on each helmet and each jersey, and it doesn't count toward the SEC.
Yeah, that's some of the repercussions or ricochet stuff, the peripheral stuff that you don't really consider. And we got to figure out what we're gonna do with.
Yeah. I haven't gone too far in the weeds to see if there are any of those other series out there, but I did read that about Utah and Baylor. I know they played each other this year, so it makes sense that they were already on the schedule to play this coming season.
So you make the trek, like you said. Your easy day tomorrow just means getting to Louisville and covering the game. 6:00 tip at the Yum Center. It's like all the coaches. You want to make the games easier than practice. Game day is like an off day, and covering a basketball game is like an off day now for you. So.
Yeah, it basically is. It really basically is. But it should be a lot of fun tomorrow night. I am very, very curious to see what that building is going to look like.
Yeah,
I saw that report from Rick Bozich that Louisville was pumping in crowd noise into practice, so that can't be a good sign. I know they're trying a red out. I don't think that's going to work. But look, Kentucky will win this game, but Louisville, I think you're going to get the best of Louisville tomorrow. I know last year I honest to God didn't get to watch much of last year because I was unfortunately at the Music City Bowl and had to watch that disaster. But I know that score wasn't quite as bad as some were anticipating. I know at times Louisville was able to hang around. So I think you're going to get Louisville's best punch. You got to have some pride in this rivalry. I think I know Kenny Payne doesn't sound like he understands it with the media, but I think he does. He's been around it too much on both sides not to understand it. You have to be oblivious, which I don't think he's oblivious. You have Sky Clark, who is obviously a former Kentucky signee. Like, there's some juice in this thing. From their side, they're going to know what's at stake, but this is more of a can't lose. You just can't find a way to get embarrassed. It's not going to happen again, but like, Louisville is such a train wreck right now. And this is really hard to do on the road. If Kentucky were to lose, it'd be a quad 4 loss. Like, on the road, that's almost impossible with how the quads are set up.
Because they are 300 and what?
They're 265, I think.
Oh, they're that high. Wow.
Yeah, they're that high. Yeah,
because what did the win over Pepperdine raise them up? I guess because
it's probably other teams falling down. If we're being honest,
Kansas State or somebody got beat the other day. You might have saw this, Aaron. Y'all both might have saw it. Somebody lost 62-46. I think one of them was Kansas State, and the Ken Palm ranking matched the score for both teams. The 62nd ranked team beat the 46th ranked team 62-46. And then somebody on Twitter said, this has never happened again. And they said, wait until Louisville beats Notre Dame 312-276 or whatever. So maybe that win over Pepperdine jumped them up to 260 something now.
Win's a win, I guess. Win's a win.
It's like when your batting average is so low and you finally get one hit, it jumps you up. Now he's batting 197. He raised his average. He raised his average 100 points.
Yeah, they're a mess, man, and you just got to kick them while you're down. And look, Kenny and Cal are pals. If Kentucky gets up 30 in the second half, I could see them sitting on that ball a little bit. I don't think they're going to run it up on KP there, but if you're Kentucky, you just got to go handle business and make your fans happy. A lot of them are going to make the short drive down to the west I-64. A lot are already in Louisville. I think they're going to pummel them. I mean, I don't think anyone doesn't think they're going to pummel them. And then you move on and you get Christmas break. I mean, it's really – I wish this game had more luster. We talked about it ad nauseum in the offseason. And credit to Jeff Brom. He made that football team a solid team. And that made this game this year a lot of fun. And, it meant a little something. I think it even meant a little more to Kentucky to win that game this year. Obviously, they were ranked 10th, but just knowing like that wasn't a pushover Louisville team. By any means. So I hope the same could happen with basketball someday, but I don't think that day is going to be tomorrow.
Mike, will Kenny Payne be fired after the Kentucky game?
At this rate, I don't think so.
If they had lost to Pepperdine, I wonder what would have happened. Which they won, and I mean Arkansas State beat you by 20 at home. You think that's right?
I thought that was going to be it.
I mean, they gotta make it happen soon.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, what are we doing? Like, don't drag it out. I mean, just go ahead and. I get not wanting to do it right now, but man, it's bad.
I think it's all a money thing. I mean, I think I was forget if I was reading or listening to Nick Coffey over there. Great radio host, by the way. I know he's a big cards guy, but he does great work. He was talking about, I think the buyout drops by $2 million if you wait out the rest of the season. And obviously Louisville's had to deal with some coaching things and some money, changing hands, that maybe they want to save that money and kind of know this team is toast anyway. But on the same token, like you got to have some pride. Like, this is Louisville we're talking about. We're not talking about Indiana Wesleyan. Like, we're talking about Louisville basketball, a top 10 program historically ever. There's got to be some pride to say that what Kenny Payne's not doing is not acceptable, and finding an interim coach and then, going and having a big time search at the end of this year. But I don't think he'll be fired no matter what happens. I think I see Clyde saying book it.
Predictions coming in.
Unless maybe if they get 50 pieced or something. But I don't think John's going to do that to his buddy Kenny.
Yeah, Cal. Cal's going to try his best not to allow that to happen, though.
They'll go up by 30 and sit on the ball.
He'll do his part, and now if Louisville does their part, it won't get that out of hand.
Right.
So we'll see. Mike Dowd, I've heard they're waiting to see if Carter Knox commits to Kenny. If he doesn't commit, I believe he'll be fired.
Yeah, that's a little fair. I mean, you obviously got to have some recruiting momentum, I guess. But look, at the end of the day, it's college sports in 2023. If he's not getting the job done, he's going to get fired. Bill
Belichick about to get run off, so
if Bill Belichick can get fired, Kenny Payne surely.
It happens to everybody, man. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah, for sure. Well, get over there and keep everybody healthy and take care of business, basically, and get back to Lexington, like you said, for break, Aaron.
And hopefully Big Z is still a part of this team. I don't know what's going on with that. The NCAA kind of just throws darts, and it'll either say let them play or don't, and they decide when they want to play their game. So I don't know when they're going to play Big Z's round. Hopefully within this week, or it sounds like he talked about, he had the Twitter statement today, saying how much he loves it here, but there's been talk about going home for the holidays and literally just not coming back. And I wouldn't blame the kid, because he's from everything I've been told and everything that's been reported out there, it sounds like he's done everything right. He's here. He said he's been doing well in school, and he's back practicing. He's healthy, and it's a shame, but you want to do right by the kid at the end of the day. And if that's going home, that'll be going home.
Because you can't, from his standpoint, you can't not feel jerked around at this point. And if you're busting it, do everything you can. Over here, foreign language, foreign country, got your grades right, practicing, not sick anymore. You couldn't, had to get over all that, and you still.
This doesn't seem
feels
right.
like you just getting the carrot dangled in front of you, and there's more hurdles, and it's messed up.
Yep.
So, oh, we got tons of signing day stuff to talk about, but man, Jalen, I gotta ask you real quick, because we've talked about Aaron, you're from Connecticut, Jalen, you're from Montgomery. We talked about both of y'all's hometowns and stuff from time to time. Look, I'm from here. We talk about Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky, and a lot of listeners are from Kentucky, so we know about Kentucky. So it's good to get stuff about where y'all are from time to time. So on that note, last week after we finished the episode, I watched the SEC Story, like their version of 30 for 30, and it was on Bart Starr. Now, from Montgomery, Alabama, he's a generation or two older than all of us. Played
That's
before our time.
Dick Gabriel's favorite, right there.
Yeah.
His dog is named either Star or Bart. I forget.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And glad to hear that he's going to be going to the Gator Bowl.
I know he's going to the game. Yeah, I'm very excited. He was and you know who else was at media today? Real quick, I'm sorry to get off track because I want to get to Jalen here, but Lonnie Demery was at the students press conference today.
I heard it.
So I was really happy after the fall he had, and unfortunately, I was the one who. Well, unfortunately, I guess I was the one who was there and able to, call for some help. And there were some other people there: Cam Drummond of the Herald Leader, Michelle from the AP, and then some ROTC personnel came and helped out. So shout out to everyone who helped. And then obviously, EMS and everyone. And he was Lonnie, man, smiling. Would never have known he got a little beat up out there. So it was great to see Lonnie back today.
Yeah, I heard him ask a question in Stoops.
Yep. Yeah, he's right. I didn't even know he was there because he snuck in late and he was right behind me. I'm like, oh, he's here. He's back. So we were all excited to see that.
Yeah, Lonnie, Jalen just be chuckling at all the old school dudes, Larry Vaught and Lonnie and Jalen just be like, yeah, I remember them getting.
Oh, Lonnie, man.
He's the man.
He is the man, man. You can't help but to look forward to his questions.
Yeah, no, he loves UK football, man. I was talking to one of his family members who wanted to just kind of know what happened with him. He was saying that initially, Lonnie had a concussion and there was some, confusion a little bit going on, and he thought it was 2007, and it was because it was such a good year for UK football. So that's the type of guy Lonnie is. So again, yeah, really good to see him and Dick back doing what they love.
Yeah, for sure. So what I was going to show you about Bart Starr is, first of all, I knew he went to Alabama. I didn't know he was from Montgomery, so that's number one. And his younger brother passed away, and growing up, his father, straight up, just basically liked his younger brother better than him. And they were playing in the yard. Stepped on a nail and kind of got tetanus, and the tetanus shot wasn't a real thing back then. His younger brother passed away, but the dad was always like, "You're not as tough as your younger brother. You're not the athlete he is." And Bart kind of had that. That's kind of where he got that drive from, to just prove all doubters wrong. And eventually, their relationship as an adult, when he's with the Packers, Bart's kids talk about the granddad coming to Green Bay to visit and all that, but it was really rocky, and it was, Dad's attitude wasn't really right as far as how he viewed, the kids. But Jalen, I just don't know, my first question, you know a lot of talent comes out of Montgomery. You talk about your Michael Green and players and stuff like that. Did Bart Starr get talked about a lot, even though he was before you? Number two, he also was really close to coming to Kentucky. Babe Parilli was his favorite player, but his girlfriend went to Auburn. His girlfriend, who became his wife, went to Auburn. And so he wasn't trying to drive from Lexington to Auburn whenever he could to see his fiance. He would make that Tuscaloosa to Auburn drive, even if he could just see it for an hour or two. But they, end up being married for decades and decades. But I didn't know he was this close to playing for the Cats. I was like, wow, that is crazy. So I just said a whole lot of stuff, I know. But fellow Montgomery Alabamian Bart Starr, quarterback Bart Starr, got a Montgomery native here, Jalen Whitlow, and then the fact that he almost played for Kentucky. So I just wonder how he's still talked about down there in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's funny that, if you were asked the average football person around my age or younger, they wouldn't even know that he's from Montgomery.
Yeah,
yeah, they wouldn't even know because things have changed so much. He went to if I remember correctly, he went to Sidney Lanier High School, which is actually where my mom went. And that it's just so much it's changed so much. It's not the same. They're closing that school down. I think this year or next year, they're closing Sidney Lanier down, and they'll consolidate another school on that side of town. But yeah, he don't get talked about very much, man. It's funny. Now, obviously, if you ask the Alabama fan, they'll probably know. But you know, he don't get talked about much in Montgomery. I mean, we got to, that's been a while too. So
Right.
people don't really, remember. I had to remember that when you said his name, I was like, oh wow, yeah, he is from Montgomery. I had to really remember that, like, because we just, he just, his times have changed. So, but yeah, he the people who do know hold it in high regard because, that's a legend, and not only a legend but a quarterback that's from the city of Montgomery that has, Tavares Jackson, the late Tavares Jackson from Montgomery. He actually went to Sidley Lanier High School as well. So, that's a big deal. So, Montgomery has produced some guys, but to be such a not so big town, we have produced a few quarterbacks that, that were legends in their own right, man. So, yeah, he's from Montgomery, man. He went to Sidley Lanier High School in West Montgomery. And, obviously his name, you go into school, his name is on, he's up there. They let you know. But, it's not as big as you would think it would be. The fact that Bart Starr went to Sidley Lanier and went to Alabama, even though he is a legend. So, but, people like me who grew up or, sports fanatics, and we kind of know everybody who, played ball coming out of the city. Of course, I had an idea. I knew about it. So, but that is, something that we talk. I remember in college, we had these conversations. Who's from your city? And he's a name that I would bring up. Like this dude, I mean, is a legend at Bama. Played with the Packers. So you can't. It's hard to top that.
Won the first 2 Super Bowls ever.
No doubt.
That's right.
First 2 Super Bowls ever. I mean, that's gold jacket type stuff.
He's got one.
Yeah.
So did you play Sidney Lanier every year?
Yeah.
And how'd you fare against them?
Yeah, we did. They kind of fell off in the football thing. They're not really a football school. Really good at basketball. They have been historically. But we always beat them up pretty good, man. To be honest with you, and I say that with some hesitancy because I got a lot of friends that people that
I gotta talk your talk
that play for them. But yeah, we every time we played them in football, we destroyed them. To be honest.
And you won a state championship in school too, right?
My senior year of high school, we won state. Actually, that year we played them on homecoming, which is
you know what that means. What that means.
But that game was one of the games that it's funny because every game when I was at my first high school, that's the game that I broke my leg in that game. I was starting quarterback my first year starting quarterback in high school as a sophomore, and I actually had a season-ending injury that game. The next year we played them was
this is Prattville, right? You're at Prattville?
No, this was when I was at Jeff Davis in Montgomery.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the next year we played them. When I was at Prattville, I had my best game of the year. And then my senior year we played them. I had my best all-purpose game of the year. I think I threw a touchdown, ran a touchdown, and I caught 2. So it was just it was always a bad day for Lanier when they played.
Is Roman Harper the most famous Prattville guy?
Yeah. His whole family is probably super famous. Roman Harper was a dog at Prattville, man. He's a legend. Like he is, and it helped the whole allure of Roman Harper. It helped the fact that he went to Bama. But he was a legend, man. His dad is a legend. Everybody loved his dad, respect his dad, his sisters, his brother. They were just legends. He was a dog. He go to Prattville. He's Prattville royalty, man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's Prattville royalty right there, man. He can go. He show up at a game. I mean, he don't really have time to show up at a game because he's always doing SEC stuff. But yeah, he's one of those guys, man. You walk in, you're gonna know that he went to Prattville High School.
So we had to detour, but I knew as soon as I was, we finished up, I flipped that on last like, man, we're gonna have to talk about Barstar next week since he's from Montgomery. Because I had no clue. I was like, oh, Montgomery. Oh,
Yeah,
so I'm learning. So I had to get all that in amongst the Kentucky basketball talk, the National Signing Day. You know, we detour and talk Connecticut and we talk Alabama because that's where y'all from. So you know, gotta get that in from time to time, man.
No doubt.
So signing day, man. We, you know, Pop Dumas Johnson is the got to start there, right?
Oh yeah, you have to. I mean, that there are a lot of good names on this list that we'll get into here. There's one position left to be desired, I think we'll get into, but to get a Butkus Award, got a Butkus Award finalist, an All-American, a 2-year starter for the best program in college football right now, 2 national championships, played a huge role on both of them, especially 2022. I mean, that's huge, man. I mean, Trevin Wallace leaving early, I think was on Friday was a little bit of a tough blow. I think I kind of saw it coming, but not to say others didn't. It seemed like a surprise to some. I thought just because you saw guys like Dumas Johnson decide to hit the portal instead of go to the draft. Barrett Carter over at Clemson decide to stay another year. So I kind of felt like maybe with Trevin's high upside, it might have been the right move for him. And sure enough, he goes and does that. And he'll play in the bowl too. So that's pretty cool. Another guy opting in. But you needed a guy to plug next to De'Aaron Jackson. And I think that's a guy who could plug and play next to De'Aaron Jackson. And I was talking to my buddy Jordan Hill, who covers Georgia for 247, their site over there. Great reporter. And, you know, he was kind of telling me that it ended up being a perfect situation for Kentucky where, you know, a guy like CJ Allen at Georgia really played out of his mind when Dumas Johnson got hurt at the end of the year. And Dumas Johnson kind of got Wally pipped where he got hurt and lost his position. And he didn't want to go fight for a starting role when he's been an All-American. And he ends up at Kentucky over, you know, Auburn had him for a visit after Kentucky, and Florida State was hoping that he wouldn't sign here so that he could visit in January. But Kentucky gets it done over some powerhouse programs that could probably pay a lot of money. And you're talking about a defense that might be able to really stop the run at an elite rate. When you have Deion Walker up front, you have all the experience that's going to come back on that D-line with Oxendine, Trayvon Ripka, some of the freshmen that they're going to add, I think, in this class might play right away. Khalil Saunders, Keyshawn Silver, a lot of dudes coming back. Then you add Dumas Johnson and D-Jack to the second level. I've heard J.J. Weaver might be coming back for year 95 next year. It's been a long day, so I'm picking on people a little extra. No, but in all seriousness, I have heard that JJ is likely to come back for next year. That would be, I mean, you know, they didn't get any edge presence in the portal. They obviously signed a bunch out of the high school ranks, but to get a JJ back for a 6th year who maybe left some to be desired rushing the passer this year, but was really stingy against the run. This has a chance to be an elite run defense now. And getting that plug-and-play guy in the middle of your defense, I think, was the biggest splash of the day. Not I would say just in this whole, you know, there's a lot of good names on here, but I think when you look at the paper that they gave us today, that's the name for me that I'm highlighting as number 1 in this class.
Is your guy Jordan, with the departures from Georgia, are they still like, whatever? Yeah. Are they starting to kind of like whatever? Are they really?
Yeah, they're like, I think the only one they were really upset about was Raiola. I mean, number 1 quarterback. Okay. Carson Beck is I think next year is going to be his last year, no matter what. I think I eligibility, I'm not even going to try to guess anymore, but I think he has a good shot to be one of the first quarterbacks off the board in the 25 NFL draft at this point. So, you know, they were a little upset about that. Now I think they're all right. Georgia, I think, can afford to have one off season where things aren't all rainbows and butterflies. They'll be just fine. They still signed the number 1 class today.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I'm hearing different coming out of Athens, man. I'm hearing –
you're closer to it. You're closer to it.
I'm hearing that that this whole, you know, transfer portal thing has bothered them, you know, a lot. You know, which I would assume that it will. I mean,
they've lost a lot.
Your depth rug has just been snatched from under you. I mean, your depth is gone now. You have no depth. I mean, obviously they're going to replace them with the portal and high school kids, but high school kids are, you don't really know what you're going to get. Portal guys, you kind of have an idea, especially the ones that have been starting elsewhere. But man, I think that's a big hit for any program, man, to lose that many guys, that many 5-star guys. Obviously, they got a lot, but I just think, anytime you lose, I mean, at one point, they had 17 guys in the portal.
I think that's what it's at right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the portal existed back in 2011 when Bama was really on top, I think that would hurt Bama significantly.
Yeah.
I just think that's a big deal when you lose that many players.
Sure.
And you got to replace. From a cultural standpoint, they're going to replace the actual talent. They're going to put the talent piece of the puzzle back in place. But to replace a guy who's been in the program for 3 years, who has helped build that culture, that's tough to replace, in my opinion. I don't care who you are. So, I think that's just tough. So, along with the quarterback situation, he probably wouldn't tell us, obviously, but I'm sure, Kirby Smart is very disappointed in what's transpired in the past couple weeks. I just think, and especially and you look at not everybody, but there's about 3 teams in the SEC right now, and Kentucky's in that 3-team mix that has really transformed their roster in the past couple of weeks. I think Bama always, I don't know how Nick Saban is doing it, but they are always on top of this thing. But what Ole Miss is doing in the portal is unprecedented. I mean, they may have the 3rd best roster right now for 2024.
Yeah,
in SEC. They may have the 3rd best roster. I mean, they are, and the way the schedule is set up, the only team that they play that's really, really, really good is Georgia. Call it spade a spade. They got to play Kentucky. I get that.
That game's at home, though.
But they don't play Bama. They don't play. I don't think they play LSU.
Nope.
I don't think they play Texas or Oklahoma. So
they got to play one of them. That was the whole rule.
Oklahoma. They got Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think they have Oklahoma. Yep.
They got Oklahoma. So, and I don't think Oklahoma's like that, to be honest with you.
No, they got the better of the two.
Yeah, and I think a lot of guys are leaving there. But, if I'm Kirby, man, I'm looking across the landscape of college football like, man, that's – I'm seeing
they
UNC.
Do have LSU, by the way. That's the only other one.
They got LSU?
Yeah, that's it. They got LSU on the road. But other than that, in Georgia, yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. And like I said, if I'm Kirby, man, I'm looking at this thing like, man, like we definitely have gotten worse the past couple of weeks. And it's like school like USC is probably saying the same thing.
Oh, definitely.
But that goes to show you how far this thing has gone, man. I mean, at this point, these 18, 19, 20-year-old dudes are like, hey, I'm going to hit the market and test the waters and see if I can get paid.
Got a little froze up a little bit, but that's Aaron, you've been a Yankees fan. If you get an acquisition that helps the Yankees and weakens the Red Sox, you're all for it. I mean, like Johnny Damon. I don't know if he went Boston, New York first. But he played for both, and
Boston,
that whole thing.
Yep.
And so you got Georgia still got a lot, but two key guys, a quarterback and a linebacker, go from Georgia to Kentucky. It definitely strengthens us. Maybe it doesn't weaken them as much as they think. And what these rumors? I know we talk a lot of Georgia, but we'll get to Kentucky. Yeah. The Kirby Smart is supposed to replace Arthur Smith with the Falcons, which I think would be terrible. All this kind of is this why so many guys are leaving from there? Yeah. It's
BS.
I mean, what's really going on down there?
I think they got a lot of talent and it's an era of college sports, not just football. You're not going to wait around for a starting job if you don't have to. And a lot of these guys are former 4- and 5-star high school guys, and they're going to find a chance to play somewhere, and that's all they care about. And they're still going to get paid by someone to do it. So I think that's all it is. I don't think there's I don't think there's that much to it, but from Kentucky's standpoint, getting two guys that have been in that culture, huge. I think that's huge. They talk about some of the leadership issues specifically on offense, and Brock Vandegrift has been in that Georgia system. He's he hasn't played, but he's been a quarterback in that Georgia system. You have to be a leader to play quarterback, even if you're not the starter. So I think it's massive, massive, massive for Kentucky to get a couple guys who all they know is winning, man.
If they had beaten Alabama waiting for the playoff, would they still have had this many departures when their season
probably
ended?
Not. I don't think so. I think Kentucky benefited from the whole situation.
One loss and you got this much defection.
Well, it might have happened. It might have happened because those guys would have been able to enter after the playoff, but it wouldn't have happened right now. And Kentucky probably would have you can't rely on that. So I think Kentucky would have had to reshuffle a little bit and find other guys to plug those holes. So they got lucky. Alabama beat them.
No doubt.
Yeah. So we got Pops, Dumas Johnson, probably the headliner of the portal. The balance is what Stoops said, in the high school ranks and in the portal. And you guys watched him today. And if he said mature and serious once, he said it 10 to 15 times about some of these guys. Yeah, and that's kind of he kind of hit on that. He kind of was just banging. He's a mature guy. He's a serious guy. He's a mature, fitting our culture, and that's seemed like that went into some of his evaluations as well, in addition to what they do on the field.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, I think they've talked about how I think this year the offense was really the issues with the culture stuff, but they did talk about during the 2022 season, how they didn't handle adversity well, how, sometimes they had to rely too much on the coaches to lead and they needed some players to step up and lead. And I think they found some guys both in the portal and in high school ranks that can be leaders right away for the portal guys. And then some who are going to kind of turn into leaders. I mean, to speak first off of the portal guys, I mean, we hit on Vandegrift and Pop Johnson there, but Chip Trainum, the running back from Ohio State, who Jalen, I know you're really high on him. Guy, the thing I love about him, man, is he's always falling forward, which is what the best Kentucky running backs have always done. But Vince Marrow talked a lot about him as a leader today. That's a good sign. Jamori Macklin, the wide receiver out of North Texas, how he is a head down, go to work guy and really, really serious about his game. He trains a lot with his cousin, Jeremy Macklin, who of course was a pretty damn good football player at Mizzou. And then with the Vinny and I rivals Eagles there in Philadelphia. So, getting some guys like that. And then the guys in the high school ranks that they raved about, Brian Johnson. I don't know if I've ever heard them as high on a high school kid as they have been with Brian Johnson. They were talking about how he's the prettiest kid they've ever seen, let alone,
Robinson kid.
Yeah. Robinson, Youngstown guy. And, I thought the best Vince Marrow said a lot of good things today, but one of my favorite lines from him, and he was talking about Brian Robinson, was how, these parents would be on the recruiting visits and they'd be like, is that guy back from the NFL to visit? And no, he's one of you guys. He's a recruit. He's 17 years old. I mean, he's 6'5". I don't know if you guys follow him on Twitter, by the way. It's like most of these guys post highlight packages or whatever. This guy's like videos of him food prepping and working out. It's unbelievable how mature this kid is. So really high on him. And then the two kids from Corbin, the Smith twins, Jacob and Gerard Smith. Two of the highest rated kids in the entire country, especially I think Gerard is top 100. So, they feel like they were able to get some mature kids, some leaders, and maybe that's something that's been lacking the last couple of years and that's hurt them on the field. Yeah. Yeah. It's a long day. It's a crazy day, but, just think of it this way. Jalen, when you signed with Kentucky, how many kids were in your class? Do you know off the top of your head or a ballpark?
Yeah, it was, I want to say 24.
24? Okay, so that is a higher number. That's a pretty high number. But
I want to say 24.
Yeah, so this between portal and high school is going to be 28 if you count Bo Allen. Bo Allen, I think he's not on the list today, but I think it's because he's going to be a preferred walk-on. So we'll probably hear that, but they added 28 new players to the program today. Some programs, you look at what Louisville's done, they've got to be around that with how many portal guys. I know they took some less high school. That's why they went so heavy portal. But you mentioned Ole Miss there. They've got to have a ton of new guys. It's just crazy how much movement there is in college football. And that's why, there's so much work with the coaches, with us trying to track all this down. And today's a long day. It's a big list, but this is one of the higher rated groups in the Stoops-Merrill era. And you got to like what you see on paper, but now it's up to the coaches, man. It's up to the coaches to follow through with the whole recruit and develop philosophy that they've built this program on. They've had a couple down years, I think, with that. But there's a lot of potential for this class to kind of be the one to turn this thing around.
Yeah, I lied, man. Our class was 29.
Oh, so you had a big one. Okay.
Well, one of these guys I've never met in my life. That's so I don't know. I don't know where.
Yeah.
So 28.
So 2014 is the one that Vince Marrow kind of compared this one to. That one had 28. So I guess it's not as big a number as I thought. 2017, 20. So every year is different. I mean, they had Kentucky has 13 guys in the portal right now. That's 13 spots. You have a handful of NFL guys. You have a handful of guys who are out of eligibility. And, they won't be done with roster movement. The portal will be open until January. We'll see if they add anyone, by then or, the second signing day in February. And then after spring ball, you'll probably see, 6 to 7 guys out, 6 to 7 guys in. And it's a crazy time, but I think overall, I don't think they've lost anyone too harmful now that Jordan Dingle's back, and I think they've added a lot of good pieces. So I mean, I think Trevin Wass is the biggest loss, but you get Jamin Dumas-Johnson. It's like, okay, we'll be fine.
And so, Dingle, you got to re-recruit the roster.
Did you hear that today?
Porter. So there's a couple guys that,
Did you hear that stuff about Dingle today? Where Stoops was like, "I'm not going to get into it," but there was a lot of money on the table, and obviously talking about Tennessee going hard after him. So, I'd love to know what happened there. But yeah, they got Jordan Dingle back. That's freaking massive. He's your starting tight end. I think he's still, I'm really high on Kamari Anderson, but I think Dingle's still the tight end one in that room going into next year. So you get him back, and Shamar Porter too, like you said, that's a guy with a lot of high upside that. That X spot, I think next year, I guess, you have Dane Key in that spot for now. But if Dane Key has a really good year next year, you could be off to the NFL. And then it's between like Shamar Porter and Raymond Cottrell in 2025.
And, Willie Rodriguez comes in. Tennessee got another tight end commit. And so Anderson and Dingle and Rodriguez and Caddis, and that room is still just going to stay deep. So
yeah, they'll be fine there.
Yeah.
The only I mentioned off the top, the one thing I'm a little concerned about with this so far, and there's time, is offensive tackle. They didn't all the offensive linemen they signed today by trade are guards. They talked about, I think, Mark Nave and the kid from Ohio who was originally committed to OSU, and then Aba Salem, from Simon Kenton up there in Independence, Kentucky, as guys who could possibly play tackle one day. But I think those two probably project more as guards. Jalen Farmer, the transfer from Florida they signed today, is a guard. So I am a little, Ben Crispin, who's going to be coming back from injury, is a guard. Dylan Ray and Jagger Burton are guards. So they're pretty set on the interior. I think Colby Keenan will be the center number 2 next year. But I guess my concern is they have 4. I think right now the 4 offensive tackles they have on next year's roster are going to be Marcus Cox, Cortland Ford, Malachi Wood, and Nick Hall. And with Wood and Hall, one is coming off an injury, and Wood is seen as if you could get him ready by his 3rd or 4th year, you did a good job developing him and getting him ready, because he's such a good frame, and they've talked a lot about him, but 6'8", skinny kid. There's a lot of work that needed to be done with him technique-wise and body-wise. So they're going to have to hit the portal, you think, in January. There's some options out there still. Maybe not starting options, but guys who can maybe develop, and then like they did with Cortland Ford, maybe after spring ball, see what's out there. But that tackle depth is thin.
And he did say a couple more, couple more moves, or he hinted
Yeah.
at a couple more
Yeah.
something's coming.
Yeah, they tried to flip the kid from Florida State, Jonathan Daniels, I want to say, was his name, 4-star commit, and there was some buzz. Yeah, Jonathan Daniels, that they maybe were going to be able to flip him today. They pushed really hard, but he did end up signing FSU. Maybe that's a guy that hits the portal one day and you reconnect. That there's a lot of that going on around the country, but yeah, they have 4 offensive tackles for 24 right now. They got to, and one's coming off a season-ending injury. So you gotta build some depth there somehow.
And you mentioned, the class coming in now. It's up to the coaches. Kind of the development's been a little bit down, but they addressed that with a hire. Hopefully, with the question came up last week, and we didn't put it up here to comment. But you had said it in our group text, and then you said it after we finished. But the new wide receivers coach, Dikale Shorts, is coming in, and so that he had his introductory press conference, yesterday, I think. So
yeah, good dude.
Got that position filled. So y'all's thoughts on that hire?
Look, I'm going to be a little skeptical, not because of him, but Kentucky's had a lot of wide receivers coaches under Mark Stoops. Hopefully one will stick here, but no, I'm more saying that teasing. I really like the hire from the standpoint of kind of what Liam Cohen described before they were able to even officially announce it, where he's a guy who's not far removed from his playing career and he plays the position. He talked about being a little washed up, but he can go out there and demonstrate some things where, Woody, I think, was a quarterback. So he can't, nothing against Woody. He just didn't play the position at the college level. And, this is a guy who didn't just play it at the college level. I think he's 5th all time in West Virginia history in receiving yards. And that's a pretty good program up there in Morgantown. So this is a guy with a lot of success at the college level. This is a guy that did a really good job at Houston with his wide receivers. I mean, Tank Dell, who probably an all-rookie guy. I know he got hurt, but probably going to be on that all-rookie team, whatever they call it in the NFL. He was awesome for the Texans. He was amazing at Houston. He led the country in receiving yards in 21 and 22 combined. Matthew Golden, a freshman who was kind of on Kentucky's radar in the portal, was really good there for 2 years, transferred to Texas. There are a couple others. One guy, I forget his name off the top of my head, this year for Houston, had 815 receiving yards. So, he's developed some dudes down there in H-Town. And I think now with some SEC talent, Dane Key and Barryon Brown, get them back on track. You get Jamori Macklin, who's kind of like going to be a really experienced guy who has a ton of upside, 2 years of eligibility if he's not ready for the NFL after next year. And some of the other depth pieces in that room. I like this hire.
Yeah, I think it's a good hire. And I thought it was interesting to what Liam Cohen said in his interview the other day. He mentioned, and Woody is his boy. And he mentioned, the fact that we need somebody who's going to, he kind of said this last, but discipline. We need discipline in the room. We need a guy who's done it. We need a guy who the kids can relate to on and off the field. And that he was straight up and honest with exactly what the issues were without saying it. So I thought that was, he could have, like I said, Liam does a good job of giving people content because he says things that usually Stoops probably call him in the office and have meetings with him about. But he gives some information up. But
yeah,
I like it. He's honest, man. I think he's honest. But I think at this time next year, we're going to be able to give a yay or a nay on this receiver hire. We're going to say, okay, the guy that we're looking at is Barryon Brown. Did we develop him to be able to use his talent at receiver? Because right now he's just a guy who can kick return. You give him a jet sweep, or he runs a vertical ball. That's who he is. Can we develop this guy into a real receiver?
Yep.
And not only develop his route running, but develop the discipline of his route running. Can we make his butt discipline? Can we make him do what he's supposed to do? Run his routes at the right depth, get out of his breaks at the right time. Can we have those receivers running routes with pride? They lack juice. They lack pride in their route running. They lack pride in their blocking this year. Straight up. Watching the film, it just was piss poor. It wasn't good. So that's what they're looking for. A good receiver coach is going to instill pride in those guys. So you got to bring your nuts to practice every day. and do things the way it's supposed to be done. Because at the end of the day, if you don't play, the quarterback don't have confidence in you, and you're not going to get on the field if you don't block with some attitude. So that's going to be the thing. Can he make that guy in particular? I'm going to be able to look at the film next year at this time and say, okay, I know what type of routes he ran in 21 and 22. I mean, I'm sorry, in 20 and 22 and 23. And is he running better routes in 24?
Yeah,
is he playing with more discipline in his route running? Is he blocking with more effort, right? Is he, getting lined up quick? Is he playing with more urgency and more intensity? That's what's going to be able to tell us if this receiver hire was good. And obviously you can look at the whole group, but looking at that guy in particular, because I think that guy is the most, as good as he is, as good as Barryon Brown is and all the accolades that he's received in the past 2 years, I don't think he's come close to scratching the surface as a player, how good he can be.
I agree.
Because he's not playing the receiver position. He's not. He's playing athlete right now.
Yep.
And that's how we're going to be able to judge that. How is he going to develop this guy in 8 months? In 8 months, can we get this guy to be able to be the force that we know that he can be at the receiver spot? Take away the return game. So that's what it's going to be. So I can't wait to see it because I like to look at that type of stuff. I like to watch the film and really nerd out on it and see, okay, is he – because I know what they're running. I know what routes they're running. I know where they're supposed to be and when they're supposed to be there. Are they doing what they're supposed to do on a consistent basis? If they do, you're going to see this offense really take the next step. If not, then, you're going to get some of the same results because at the end of the day, Dane Key played with zero confidence this year for the most part. He had the big catch against Louisville, but he didn't play with any swag, any juice, any, they didn't play with any dog, that receiver. Just call it a spade. So we'll be able to tell real quick come September and October.
Hey, there you go, man. Jay Witt never misses words, and that was pretty cut and dry on what we hope Coach Shorts can come in and kind of shore up at that position. Got some players in here, got a new coach, so you revamped the whole room and got some good guys with ability that was already there in addition to what already we just got brought in. So ain't nothing to it but to do it now. So we'll see.
No doubt.
Fellas, man, I think we hit everything. If you anything else I want to add, or we got it all covered, or
no, I think we hit it all, and another. Next week will be another big week around this. You'll have not basketball. We'll be able to talk about the Louisville game, but football, going into a bowl game. So
that's right. So we'll do it all again next week. We appreciate everybody bringing in the comments, the Facebook comments, and y'all tell your friends about the podcast. Hope you enjoy it. Go ahead and subscribe to it if you want to listen on Apple or Spotify. Do that. Be live here on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. So keep on tuning in. We appreciate having y'all and appreciate Aaron Gershon and Jalen Whitlow each and every week. And we'll be back next week for another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Go Cats, handle business against the Cards. We'll talk about it all next week. Until then, everybody stay safe. If it's cold where you are, try to stay warm.